All right, family, we back once again. Chauncey, aka the Black Separatist, with another great Man of God Media TV reaction. All right, just came across the story from ESPN First Take regarding white students turn back on black basketball team. All right, so this is a real raw, uncut reaction. Haven't watched the video at all, period. I just basically saw the title and I said, okay, let me go ahead and get a reaction off of this. So I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and post commentary on this particular video. It was posted yesterday, December 16th. All right, so before I start on that and my post reaction, once again, if you are new to this channel, my name is Chauncey, aka the Black Separatist. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram with the same name, the Black Separatist. All right. Anyway, on this channel, the topics I talk about is counter racism. I also talk about issues that affect black people collectively as a group, and I offer my suggestions on how to replace this broken system of injustice, this broken system of racism, white supremacy, with a system of justice. So if you subscribe to that ideology, please subscribe to this channel. If you don't subscribe to the ideology, subscribe anyway. I need the view counts. I need the subscribers. You just want to hate, watch, troll, whatever. Do what you want to do. Subscribe anyway. The more, the merrier. Anyway, so let's get right into this, family. This video is entitled ESPN First Take, White Students Turn Back on Black Basketball Player. It's the runtime is 18 minutes and 44 seconds. I just want to watch the part of the video footage that they captured, and also probably watch the responses from Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, and give my post reactions on myself as well. Give my post commentary regarding what they said about the clip. So I won't play the whole video. Is what I'm saying. I'll just get down to certain parts and I'll cut it from there, and I'll start my commentary. All right, family. So let's get right into it. I'm going to play the video, like I said, real raw, uncut reaction, and my post commentary. So let's get right into it.
Very troubling story out of Missouri. The predominantly white school district of Warrensburg is apologizing after a student waved a Donald Trump campaign sign during player introductions for an all-minority Kansas City basketball team. Video shows several students, many wearing cowboy hats, turning their backs on the visiting team while they were introduced. The Warrensburg School District apologized in its official Facebook page earlier this week, saying it would try to prevent similar incidents like this in the future. Superintendent Scott Patrick tells the Kansas City Star the back turning is a long-standing practice, but the campaign sign, quote, took this from something that was unsportsmanlike to something that was insensitive, not necessary, and inappropriate. Warrensburg Schools District is 80% white. The Center District is 19% white. Stephen A., this makes me sick. What is your reaction?
All right, before he even starts talking about this, you know, I don't even know what town this was in. Doesn't really matter. Okay, Warrensburg, Missouri. Anyway, that's full-fledged white supremacy right there. Full-fledged, top-notch. Full-fledged, overt white supremacy. And Donald Trump is the progenitor of overt racism in this country. It was covert for a while. Now it's overt racism. You know? And that's what it is. Now you got guys like Dylan Roof, who is basically a hero to these white supremacists, who shot and killed the 9 black people at the South Carolina church in Charleston, South Carolina. Again, he's held as a hero to these white supremacists. All right, and now these white supremacists are looking up to the young man, 21-year-old Neanderthal psychopath Dylan Roof. They're looking up to him. So these people that dress like that in these white supremacist garb, I don't care what y'all say, they're white supremacist garbs, and especially holding up the Donald Trump sign, which is basically symbolizes apartheid neo-Nazi regime in this place we call the wilderness of North America. That's exactly what that is. All right. So we're going to have Dylan Roots in training, family. Dylan Roots in training. All right? Dylan Roof and Donald Trump made it cool to be overt racist, to basically, even though this has been happening for over 400 years, to basically, you know, make it normalized to kill black people regardless of what they're doing. Regardless. So that's what that footage looks like to me. Just white supremacists, overt racists in training. So, all right, let me play the clip.
Well, my reaction is that I think it was perfectly explained when the individual that you just quoted talked about how it's a long-standing tradition for them to actually turn their back to the opposition. It wasn't until the actual Trump sign was hoisted by somebody that it became racially insensitive and beyond. If you're turning your back to an opponent and that's your tradition to sort of disrespect them and create some kind of hostile working environment for the opponent, oh, I've seen people do crazy stuff, no question about it. I remember when Olden Polynice years ago got himself in trouble trying to steal records when he was in college, and he went to Duke, and the fans at Duke at Heron Indoor Stadium literally threw records on the court to mock him and things of that nature. They did crazy stuff, and it was all in fun. This wasn't because of that Trump sign, which brings us to our president-elect and what we're looking at here. And it's one of those situations where the president-elect is going to have to stand up at some point and acknowledge responsibility for a base, a segment of our population out there that he was more than willing to cater to in order to garner votes. You're going to have people who think
he won't acknowledge it because look at his cabinet. His cabinet is full of full-fledged white supremacists. He's not going to shake his base. That's his foundation. His foundation is full-fledged white supremacists to run his regime, his cabinet. So that right there, way off. He's never going to acknowledge that. The fact that Russia had a direct hand in making sure that he was elected president, that showed you right there. And Donald Trump doesn't even acknowledge it. He dismissed it. It's like, well, why are y'all bringing this up? Y'all just mad that Hillary Clinton got elected. That's what basically he just said. That's what basically he said. You know what I'm saying? So that right there, I disagree with. He's never going to acknowledge his white supremacist base whatsoever.
He's racist. You're going to have people who think he's not. Right now, that conversation is counterproductive because he will be our president of the United States. But what it is important to recognize is the fact that you had no inhibitions whatsoever about peeling, even if it's to a small segment of our populace, a segment of our populace that clearly harbors those feelings and basically adds credence and substance to the proclamation made by Van Jones of CNN.
Just noticed that Stephen A. got braces or something like that, a retainer. He's talking kind of strange, but I noticed he got something with his teeth.
The night of the election, on November 9th, when he said, and he called it a white lash. Now, there are white people out there who got offended, and they should be offended if indeed he were not talking about them, because he's alluding to them just by virtue of you being white and you voting for Trump. You must have felt a certain way. I think that's not fair to a lot of white Americans out there who may have had different reasons for voting for who they voted for. But to the folks who did vote for Trump, who do harbor those sentiments, who do feel that level of vitriol towards different ethnicities, Trump has to stand up, man up, and acknowledge that indeed he didn't mind catering to those, or at the very least, address them more fervently, more vehemently in decrying the positions that they take. Because the more divisive we are as a nation under his presidency, the more difficult it's going to be for him or for Congress and the Senate or beyond to get things done and move this nation in a forward direction. This is emblematic of the problems that await, because there are white individuals out there who have supported Donald Trump, who believe, hey, it's us against everybody else in America. We don't like them, and we have someone who supports our racist, bigoted, prejudiced views, and we don't care because we feel the freedom now to express it. By the way, Max, that never happened under Barack Obama. You didn't see people out there going like this. Well, because Barack Obama's our president, we're going to convey these points of views, and this is how we feel. That's not what I saw.
Well, there was
but
plenty
I'm
of,
seeing it now.
There was plenty of racist coverage of Barack Obama's presidency. Let's call it what it is.
Now I'm talking about the.
I want to take this one at a time.
What the hell does it mean by racist coverage? That's you lost me right there. What racist coverage is he talking about? He needs to define that.
One, if the explanation is as you stated, that this is a tradition that they do, there happened to be a Trump sign there because that's their guy. Okay, I'm going to table some other things to say about that for a second. And it's a misunderstanding. It was put together in a way that made it seem racist when it wasn't. Okay, that's one explanation. I hope that's the case, as a matter of fact. If it's the case that this actually reflects that it wasn't such a misunderstanding and it reflects some racist feelings, then I would say shame on the parents of the students who did it, because it reflects a broken culture in the home. And if it is not that, but it's not about the home, but rather about these kids acting independently, and in fact it was meant in some racist way, then again, shame on the parents, do a better job raising your kids. But I'm hoping that the latter two are not the case, that in fact it is some kind of a misunderstanding, and it doesn't reflect a broken culture in the home or a culture of negligence as it relates to raising children. I mean, these are high school kids. And I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are racist, bad people, Stephen A. You and I agree about that. But at the very least, his candidacy and then election has emboldened, or seems certainly to embolden, some very bad elements in our midst, racist elements included. And when you say...
We got a commercial. Let me skip this real quick, family.
With class-exclusive four-corner air suspension.
In our midst. Racist elements included, and when you say that he really needs to denounce that more vociferously, he has at one point said, hey, that's terrible, in an early interview after the election, that's terrible, people shouldn't do that, but he should be coming out and saying, hey, in terms of my supporters who feel this way, that's bad, you shouldn't do that, and I want to distance myself from that. The question is, why hasn't he done that more? And the answer could be, if you look at the numbers, that it represents a bigger percentage of his support than many want to recognize.
Yeah,
well, that's definitely possible.
That's true.
I just don't know whether or not that's factually correct, but it might be. I'm not.
Obviously, you don't do your research. You look at the statistical data. You find that a surge of white women voted for Donald Trump. Let's look at the data. White women who are college educated and married. The same guy who's a womanizer, right? The same guy who said he'll have sex with his daughter, right? The same guy that basically disrespects women and basically treats them like an object. That's the same guy who is also a white supremacist. Don't care if I'm going off code or not. Donald Trump is a full-fledged white supremacist. But yet, all that being said, the white women who are college educated and married still voted for Donald Trump. Never mind, or let's not even talk about the billions and billions of dollars that were donated to his campaign by these suspected white supremacists. We're not even talking about that. We're just talking about white women who are college educated and married. Just that alone. Then you got white women, period, voting for him. Then you have white men who have at least a high school degree or below. So basically, again, it was a white surge, or a white lash, if you will, right? Just like Van Jones said, a white lash of white people voting for Donald Trump to make sure the system of racism, white supremacy is no longer covert. It is overt racism, full-fledged. That's what it is.
So sure. My only point is, and I want to make sure that I'm clear to piggyback off the students turning their back. I was talking about the tradition of turning your back on an opponent is something they didn't reserve for an all-black team coming to visit. According to the reports, they do it to any opponent that walks into their building when the team is introduced. The only aberration that took place was that for a Trump sign was hoisted on this particular night. And that's what changed the whole, visual of the situation, the whole imagery.
Yeah, but do they dress like that? Like some damn white supremacist hillbillies? Do they dress like that? I mean, they look like they're just getting ready to lynch the black basketball team. That's what they look like. So I want to know if they dress like that to their games with their back terms to a predominantly white basketball team. I want to know about that.
Which is why we're talking about it. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is that, again, when Van Jones talked about the election being whitewashed, being a whitewash, and that's what it was. This gives credence to that kind of argument because we're hearing people coming out that clearly feel emboldened because he's the president, and as a result, they think because he's going to be the president that things are going to change back to the way they used to be, which is code in the African American community to feel something entirely different. It's what we cannot ignore. We have to pay attention to. You and I both know that. This is an example of that, and he needs to address it.
And incidentally, whether or not the candidate or the president-elect or a president or elected official is in fact themselves racist, because you've dealt with Donald Trump, so have I, by the way, and I have not found that to be the case. He was a New Yorker and all this stuff, so we were familiar, if you lived in New York for years, with the tabloids, and he was everywhere. And that's not what most people will tell you, that they think that he is actually racist. However, if enough supporters or enough of your support come from people who harbor those kind of feelings, then I agree with you, of course, and with conscientious people, that he needs to use his influence among that lot to give them a better understanding of the right way to be, and not to embolden their lesser kind of instincts, but instead appeal to their better angels, even if appealing to their better angels is not how he got elected.
I just find this whole story, all of this, so frustrating. This is America. We're a melting pot. Look at us on the show. We're all different cultures, religions, races. Can people please try respecting one another? Do we want to be like, what's happening?
All right. I'm done. You first of all, she need to just be quiet with her goddamn opinion. I'm sorry, Molly. You don't know what the hell you talking about. Melting pot? Really? Really? Melting pot my ass. Pause. Ain't no goddamn melting pot in the system of racism, white supremacy. There ain't no melting pot. So another person that I assume she's a liberal or something like that. But you really got to just stop living in that goddamn utopian bubble, because we don't live in no goddamn utopia. We don't live in no melting pot. We live in a system of racism, white supremacy. That's what we live in, and you just witnessed that. So don't act surprised if you see these white supremacist hillbillies dressed up like that with their back turned with the Trump sign, supporting apartheid neo-Nazi regime for Donald Trump, to make sure black people are mistreated, subjugated, dominated, executed on a daily basis for over 400 years. That's going to be continued to be normalized. So all this melting pot talk, trash. You living in a bubble, you're being delusional, and you're being disingenuous. Okay? The reality of the situation is we live in a system of racism, white supremacy, and we need to replace that with a system of justice. It's just that simple. Just that simple. So, y'all, I mean, people who think like Molly, Max and Stephen A. talking about, well, I lived in New York and I didn't think Donald Trump was racist. again, we black people, when we have black people that think like that, okay, a lot of them, and we are not on the same page whatsoever. We're not. We're not on the same page. We're not even the same damn book. We're in different categories. Some people are in fiction. Some people are in fantasy. Some people are bibliography. Some people are in nonfiction. Some people are in science fiction. Right? Some people are in allegorical. They're just all over the place. We are not on the same page to understand how to replace this broken system of injustice with a system of justice. We're not. So when you have these situations where damn white hillbilly racist group of people dressed up, I don't know, dressed up like they're going to lynch and execute black people with their back turned at a basketball game with a Trump sign, that's pretty normal. That's pretty normal. All right. So, yeah, that's it, family. I just wanted to get my thoughts on that, my real-time post commentary and reaction to that. These guys, Molly, Stephen A., Max, y'all need to just stick with sports, all right? Stick with sports. Stop talking about these particular social issues, although they, are sports related. But when it comes to stuff like that, you guys offer no solutions and you live in a goddamn bubble. You are just, delusional when it comes to this system of injustice that we live in. This system of racism, white supremacy that we live in. Just stop it. Just stop it, all right? So, that's what it is, family. My real-time thoughts and post commentary on this ESPN First Take video. White students turn back on black basketball team. That's normal. And that further confirms this system of racism, white supremacy in this country. It's that simple. All right, family. Signing out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. See you on the next video. Chauncey, a.k.a. the Black Separatist, signing out. Peace.